Hey guys, so welcome back to the channel. I am your host Sleepy Celestial. So guys, let's get right into this. So welcome back to episode 2 for tonight. I will be now covering Michael Jackson 5 part of my Michael Jackson era series that I am currently covering on my channel. I hope you guys are very excited. I am too myself. It is a privilege to cover Michael Jackson's legacy. Like I said, this is a long time in the making. I've been making sure that I be very respectful as I'm covering the King of Pop. Like I said, when you think of pressure, when you think of trying to be great and the impact that the adversity to be great, I look no further than the Jackson 5. When you look upon the different history that the Jackson 5 had to go through in order for me to be great, we've seen so many movies of the Jacksons, such as the depiction of the history of his upbringing, the impact of his mother Catherine being the cornerstone of why he pursued or continued into the music world, and with everything that Michael Jackson has gone through as he was growing up. And we saw the depiction of Joseph Jackson, Michael Jackson's father, the impact that he has on his children and how they perceive him. Now we know that Michael Jackson grew up in a strict upbringing. I think when you think about forcing someone to be great but also giving them trauma, I think that plays a part into that. From what people have taught or learned from Joseph Jackson, yes, he was Michael Jackson's father, but in the long run I think he was not really a good person. I would say, how would I say this to not feel disrespectful to his father in a way? It was like the father of Michael Jackson grew up at a time where, especially during you could say the 50s and the 60s and stuff, it wasn't pleasant to be a colored person, and still this day colored people have versus so many adversities. And I think that gave him a grounded, I would say, boost of shaping his young boys as strict as he can, but also it kind of forces the trauma out of them. They couldn't be nothing but great, and there was nothing that's gonna stop them from doing that, because they had a father that made sure that everything that they have done or controlled was managed by him. And I think that caused some sort of fear. I think that also plays a part too. It caused some sort of fear where they can't do nothing but trying to do the utmost right thing, and music was their way of expressing themselves, even though sometimes it felt like a boot camp, and they had to keep trying until they get one thing right. And I think the impact of creating a boy group at that time under that level of pressure, no one will fall into the cracks. So when you think of the Jacksons and the impact they have given back to the world, and that they each are considered royalty in their own right. If you're a Jackson, the world is expecting great from you, because you're coming from a lineage of not only great artists, great musicians, pioneers, and there was no tolerance of not being something that you're not good at. I think that's alone carries a heaviness of pressure. Imagine being born into a family where everyone is a musical genius, and you have to follow those footsteps. That's a very high burden to carry, if in my opinion, because you're not allowed to, I think over time the Jackson family has somewhat changed a bit, because compared to the hold that Joseph Jackson had on his family. You know, I know that from researching and understanding that they were heavy on the Jehovah Witness, so they didn't really celebrate birthdays nor holidays, and I think sometimes could cripple a child, especially their upbringing. I think Michael Jackson said it best, you know, just quoting from him, that when he was growing up, he never had a proper childhood, and I think that plays a larger part in why he created so many fun things for children, because his innocence, his way of being a kid and, you know, playing in the backyard and, you know, having the decency to like be a normal child was never an option for him. But let's not give him the talent that out of the horrors that he has gone through, he was able to create something beautiful out of it. You know, for one, the importance of what the Jacksons have done is that they were considered musical pioneers. They not only achieved 4 consecutive hits, number ones, but they also were the first to do that. They also started their own cartoon show, becoming the youngest Rock and Roll Hall of Fame celebrities to do that. Also, they are a fan frenzy when it came to overwhelming cities. While being a African American group, they were able to create a lot of mainstream music that the audience were undeniably talented and youthful energy. They were able to separate the artists from the I would say the artists from the crew, because they were able to do so much. Another cool thing that they have done when it comes to their consecutive singles, they break a lot of charts. You know, 4 straight singles in the Hot 100. They are one of the only group in music history to have done so. Some of the hits comes from I Want You Back. You also have ABC. You also have The Love You Have Saved Will Be There. It goes on, and these hits came all from the Hot 100. Now, for the massive appeal among some of the few brothers that they have, the first black group to achieve that massive crossover appeal with the audience brings R&B and soul to the mainstream. So they did such phenomenal. They are considered a juggernaut when it comes to culture phenomenon. Their popularity sparked high levels of hysteria. Their intensity that brings police often to escort them. You know, there is so much that the Jacksons have done. Like I mentioned before, they had their own cartoons starring the Jackson 5 and their first animated series featuring an African American group music. So they were considered the standard for African Americans, the impact. And then when you start thinking about the Rolling Stone covers, they were featured on the Rolling Stone covers, which is rare feat for a child performance at that time. So according to the Jackson ABC, their family was considered like this image of stardom that every family had to kind of like cover. Also, their family business group, which was by Mr. Joe Jackson, and started with the brother Jackie and Theo and Jermaine. Then later on, Marlon and Michael joined with Randy, which became the Jacksons. Further, their origins of Motown and the connection between the other signing groups such as Berry Gordy and Bobby Taylor, which were famously had Diana Ross, which introduced them to the world. So they became even more known when Diana Ross brought them. Their lasting legacy, which was in 1997, they became some of the youngest groups to be inducted to the Hall of Fame, which was pretty cool. And Michael, being 38 at that time, notes that was an amazing experience. And then the Grammy recognition from the Grammys, which was inducted immediately during the 1960s for their illustrious band career. And then from that 1997 or that 1979, we got to see the next step, which will be Michael Jackson leaving his group at the same time he was touring. He created the illustrious first album, which is his first cohesive album, which separated him from the group, which he created Off the Wall while he was going on tour. He was secretly working on this album while he was going on tour with his brothers. So this basically meant this was a big deal. Michael was branching off to create Off the Wall. From there, we saw Michael Jackson create something that eventually became his first album. And from his first album, he started building up a how would I say this, a fan base of unlevel proportion. I think what made it even more impactful, it's that Michael did it not only out of secrecy, but I think what made it even more awesome is that Michael did this during a time where things were going high and low, and Michael decided to be creative and took that creativity and put it in his hands, and from there the rest was history. So make sure you guys like and subscribe if you like what you hear here. I'll see you guys for part 3, which will make some videos of the Jackson 5, and then we're kicking off the Wall. Later guys, love you.